Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at an extremely under-the-radar Pokemon that helped the trainer go 20-5 on the day in the Open Great League, and that is Shadow HITMONTOP. These battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community, Maki, so many thanks for the battle submission. Since last season's move update, HITMONTOP has had an amazing moveset, counter, triple axle, and close combat, but in a MEDICHAM meta, it was tough to use other counter users. But now that the best counter user is Poliwrath, HITMONTOP actually wins the zeros and the ones versus Poliwrath, and triple axle is really nice coverage for Gligar. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and let's check out Shadow HITMONTOP in action. Hopping into the first match, picking up a positive lead, Skarmory into Lickitung. This entire team beats Lickitung, which is quite nice. We're going to see the Skarmory fire off the Brave Bird. That does big damage and a safe switch into Vigoroth, and the opponent is going to go for some chip damage here with a Body Slam. Body Slam going to be no shielded by the Vigoroth. Vigoroth continuing to farm. Opponent going for another Body Slam, but this is perfectly fine. Vigoroth able to absorb this damage. Opponent now going to send in Shadow Gligar. Now Gligar, its energy is completely walled by the Skarmory, so even if the opponent does exit this matchup with energy, that energy is not going to do them anything going up against a very healthy Skarmory. The Aerial Ace picks up the knockout, and here we're going to see the Skarmory get brought back in. In comes the Skarmory, and there's just nothing that Gligar can really do in this matchup. That Steel Flying typing just makes it very, very difficult for Gligar. Gligar goes for the Aerial Ace. As you can see, that just does nothing. And we're going to see a full farm down by the Skarmory. Skarmory leaving with a ton of energy. Opponent sends in the Lickitung. Lickitung is going to get farmed all the way down. What do they have in back? It's Trevenant. And here, this is a win, because you can get both shields with charge moves from the Skarmory, go into the Shadow HITMONTOP, and that coverage move of Triple Axle is going to secure the win. In comes the Shadow HITMONTOP. HITMONTOP with shields to hide behind is so deadly in this endgame. Trevenant goes for the Seed Bomb bait. That does get shielded, but now it's Triple Axle time. Shadow HITMONTOP going for the Triple Axle. Big damage onto the Trevenant. Trevenant gets countered down despite being a ghost type, and that's a good game. Hopping into the next match, picking up a very negative lead, Skarmory going up against Galarian Stunfisk. We see an immediate safe switch into Vigoroth. Opponent is going to respond with Venusaur. Venusaur, of course, able to hit quite hard neutrally with Frenzy Plant, but Vigoroth is able to return fire with a Body Slam, and the Body Slam does quite a bit of damage. The question is, can Vigoroth hang on here? This is a Frenzy Plant, but the Frenzy Plant does not KO, and Vigoroth is going to be able to force Switch advantage or Shield advantage here. Opponent is forced to give up a shield, so not only has the Venusaur been baited out, but this is going to set up energy for Skarmory, and shield advantage Shadow HITMONTOP in the endgame. Skarmory can very comfortably no-shield everything here. Frenzy Plant or Sludge Bomb, it's not going to matter. They go for the Frenzy Plant, of course, as that is going to do more damage. And now when they send in the Galarian Stunfisk, in comes the Shadow HITMONTOP, and in the back, it's a Mudboy, but not the Mudboy I was expecting. We don't see a lot of Swampert these days, as people are basically running Whiscash. We're going to see the close combat here. Does the opponent respect it? They do. They commit the shield, and HITMONTOP, its defense has been harshly debuffed here. This could get a bit tricky. Hydro Cannon does get shielded. HITMONTOP farming up and going for the Triple Axle. So HITMONTOP's defense has been dramatically reduced, but its attack is now boosted. Stunfisk is firing off energy here, but I don't believe this is enough for an Earthquake. I believe they should be short. It is the Rock Slide, and the Rock Slide does not KO. Despite the debuff defense, Shadow HITMONTOP hangs on, picks up the knockout, and sweeps the endgame. Picking up an amazing lead in the next match, Skarmory into Gligar. Opponent is going to look to safe switch out of here. They send in Lantern, and Lantern is going to be answered with Vigoroth. Vigoroth going to fire off the Body Slam here. Body Slam is going to do some very solid chip damage, and it is charge attack priority as the opponent throws just before they make it to the Thunderbolt. Surf is going to connect. That does some solid damage. It'll be charge attack priority again to the next move, and this Body Slam, while not being able to KO, will do quite a lot of damage to the Lantern, so we actually see a shield from the Lantern. Even if Switch advantage isn't preserved here, if you can just get shields down, then of course Shadow Triple Axle can also absolutely destroy that Gligar in the endgame. Vigoroth tries to go for CMP, but the opponent not going to allow it. We see the shield from the opponent and the snipe from the HITMONTOP. Opponent sends in the Gligar, but Gligar is about to have a terrible day. Opponent, knowing the HITMONTOP counts, makes a catch of Triple Axle onto the Vigoroth. But oh no, yeah, there's just no hope. They're getting farmed down, and a boosted Triple Axle is going to hit that Gligar. So the opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. Terrible lead in the next match, leading Skarmory into Lantern. We see the save switch into Vigoroth. Opponent is going to respond with Pelipper. Vigoroth building up to the Rock Slide, going to bait with a Body Slam, and the Body Slam bait gets no-shielded by the opponent. Good call there by the opponent. They have quite a bit of energy here on the Pelipper. Pelipper is going to go for the Weather Ball, and now Vigoroth is going to fire off Body Slam number 2. Now this Body Slam will have to force a shield from the opponent if they want to keep switch advantage, and they do. They're farming up quite a bit of energy here, and we're going to see the no-shield. Vigoroth choosing to let this go. The uncomfortable thing is that this Pelipper isn't really in a range where either Pokemon left on the team can comfortably farm down, as Steel Wing and Counter, of course, are both going to be resisted. We see the Skarmory brought into the match. Weather Ball is going to connect. Skarmory doesn't really have any value considering that there's going to be a Lantern aligned onto it, so I like the play of basically just sacrificing the Skarmory and hoping that a Brave Bird could potentially be more useful later on. In comes the Lantern. We see the switch into the Shadow Hitmontop, and the Lantern is staying in here. And up a shield, Shadow Hitmontop can put in quite a lot of work. The Surf is going to be shielded. Hitmontop continuing to farm. Hitmontop going for the close combat on charge attack priority. This close combat is going to do big damage. Opponent is going to no-shield. They get KO'd. In the back, it's Galarian Stunfisk. And Hitmontop is making a case that it is a fighter to be feared, as it's going to be able to make it to the back-to-back close combats and up a shield. The Shadow Hitmontop is just sweeping endgame after endgame. They shield the first close combat, but guess what? There's more where that came from. Close combat gets the knockout from the Galarian Stunfisk, and that's a good game. Hopping into the next match, picking up the Dream Lead, Skarmory into Alolan Ninetales. Opponent is going to save switch into Umbreon, and Umbreon is not going to appreciate Shadow Hitmontop. Hitmontop can comfortably no-shield here, as the opponent will fire off the Last Resort. That does quite a lot of damage. We're going to see an overfarm by the Hitmontop, making it to the back-to-back close combats on charge attack priority. Close combat is going to pick up the knockout for the Umbreon, and if they send in the Alolan Ninetales, they are not going to appreciate the close combat damage. They send in the A9, and it is a Powder Snow A9, not Charm. Going for the Shadow close combat here. That does massive damage. Oh my goodness. This thing's damage output is unreal. In the back, it's Lantern. We are going to see a switch into the Vigoroth. Lantern up energy in the 2-shield could prove to be very problematic. Vigoroth is going to keep spamming out these body slams, but as you can see, the spark damage from the Lantern adds up so much on the Vigoroth over time. The Surf is going to be shielded. Vigoroth continuing to farm, going for another body slam. Opponent, 1 shield remaining, and they're going to use it here, understanding that if they're going to win this game, it's going to be thanks to Lantern. Lantern goes for another Surf. We do see the shield from the Vigoroth. Vigoroth going for yet another body slam. This will not be enough to knock out here. Body slam is going to have the Lantern low. Vigoroth continuing to farm. In comes the Ninetales, trying to snipe, but a beautiful catch, catching that Weather Ball onto Skarmory. Very nicely done. Back in comes the Lantern, and oh boy, Lantern's worst nightmare. The script has been flipped, as Skarmory is a Lantern counter confirmed, and that's a good game. Looks like claiming the 5-0 as well. Nicely done. Moving into the next match, leading Skarmory into Trevenant. Now this matchup is a bit more awkward now that Steel Wing is the preferred fast move on the Skarmory. Skarmory farming up and making a beautiful catch, catching what should be a Shadow Ball onto the Vigoroth. The matchup normally can be a bit awkward as the Skarmory, but it's a lot less awkward if you make catches like that. They're staying in here with the Trevenant. They're firing off the Seed Bomb. Vigoroth can very comfortably withstand the damage, look to overfarm, and then go for the Rock Slide to potentially pick up a knockout. Opponent, are they going to protect the Trevenant? Yes, they are. They're trying to get rid of the Vigoroth. Vigoroth farming up. Opponent tries to go for charge attack priority, but the Vigoroth is just going to overfarm. The Seed Bomb will be shielded. Now going for Rock Slide number 2. Opponent already shielded once. Are they going to shield twice? No. Down goes the Trevenant, and in comes Whiscash. Whiscash farming up. We see the Vigoroth trying to go for charge attack priority, but the opponent not going to fall for it either. And the opponent is going to look for the Mud Shot farm down, and they get the farm down. I like sending in Skarmory here. Skarmory stored a bunch of energy from earlier in the match, and Skarmory can very comfortably tank a Scald. Scald will connect. We do not see the attack drop, and now Skarmory is going to full send the Brave Bird. Brave Bird connects. Down goes the Whiscash. In the back, it's Altaria, and the opponent doesn't know it yet, but it's game over, as Triple Axle will hit for double super effective damage onto the Altaria. Opponent lets it go. And that's going to do it. The boosted counter is able to KO Altaria and take that game. Picking up a bit of a tricky lead in the next match, Skarmory into Shadow Poliwrath. Despite the fact that Skarmory does have the type advantage in this matchup is not very comfortable in shielded situations, as of course the Poliwrath can consistently hit for neutral damage with counter and its charge moves, whereas the Skarmory's fast moves basically do nothing, so it's very reliant on landing a charge move to do any meaningful damage. We're now going to see the save switch into the Hitmontop, opponent now on their 6th cycle, so they are going to be able to outpace by 1 counter. We do see the shield of the Icy Wind by the Hitmontop. Hitmontop looking for the counter down and gets the counter down. Hitmontop is debuffed, but double close combats can output a lot of damage. Opponent is going to send in Whiscash. Close combat number 1 is going to connect. Keep in mind that is a debuffed close combat, and it still does nearly half to the bulky Whiscash. Going for another close combat, able to grab a shield from the opponent, and now there's still going to be that Vigoroth that has yet to see the field. In comes the Vigoroth. Opponent is going to be firing off the Scald, looking for the debuff. They do not get the debuff. In the back, it's Dragonair. The opponent not running the Shadow Dragonair, choosing to run the regular, and that is to their advantage in this game, as the Shadow with no shields is unfortunately very, very difficult to use. Skarmory is going to commit the shield. Skarmory looking to try and Steel Wing farm down, and gets the farm down, leaves with the Brave Bird, and Skarmory is going to be able to take it, as the Brave Bird is easily going to be enough to KO the Whiscash. Picking up a terrible lead in the next match, Skarmory going up against Bastiodon. Even with Steel Wing, this is a terrible spot to be in. We will see the save switch into the Vigoroth. Oh no. Opponent sends in Wigglytuff, and we all know what this team is. There's going to be a Victory Bell in the back. Body Slam shielded by the opponent. Vigoroth continuing to farm. Vigoroth firing off another Body Slam, looking to put some pressure onto the opponent. Opponent is going to let that through, and they're going to be going for an Icy Wind. Switch advantage would be massive here. The Icy Wind will be shielded up. Vigoroth able to make it to 1 final Body Slam. If the opponent shields, they get to keep switch, but they have given up both shields, and this sets up Hitmontop so nicely to sweep this endgame. In comes the Bastiodon, met with the Hitmontop, and it is the Victory Bell in the back. But guess what, Victory Bell? It's Triple Axle time. Triple Axle picks up the knockout. Now the counters are boosted. In comes the Bastiodon. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. Leading into another rock type in the next match, but this time it's an amazing matchup for the Skarmory. Opponent is going to be safe switching into Poliwrath, and again, this is not a fun spot to be if you're the Skarmory in shielded situations. Skarmory able to grab a shield from the Poliwrath, but these counters already basically have the Skarmory at half HP. We see the shield as the opponent goes for the Scald, and they do get the debuff. 50% of the time, works 100% of the time. And now Skarmory going to be going for the Brave Bird. The Brave Bird connects. Opponent trying to say that they can survive a Sky Attack, but the Brave Bird gets the KO. But in the back, it's Skeledirge, and Skeledirge is going to be a problem here. Vigoroth farming up. Vigoroth, oh my goodness, going for the Body Slam bait. Does the bait pay off? It does, grabbing the shield from the opponent. But the issue here is that Skeledirge is at back-to-back Disarming Voices. Disarming Voice will connect. Opponent switches into Credilli. That's a great play by the opponent, understanding that Credilli will be able to absorb the Rock Slide a lot better than that Skeledirge. So they have potentially put themselves in a position to win this game, as now Credilli is going to be firing off a Grass Knot. Grass Knot is going to do quite a lot of damage to the Hitmontop, and we see the switch into the Skarmory. Can Skarmory make it to a move here? This will be close. Skarmory, oh my goodness, it needs the Brave Bird, choosing to let this go because the Skeledirge has too much energy. Back in comes the Hitmontop. Hitmontop going for the close combat. This is double resisted. Can Shadow Hitmontop clutch another game? It cannot. And the Skeledirge up energy just proves to be a bit too much to handle. Hopping into the final match, leading Skarmory into Lickitung. So picking up a very nice lead, as this entire team has a positive matchup against Lickitung. In the Zeros, Skarmory does need to land a Sky Attack and a Brave Bird, but it looks like they're just going to go for the Brave Bird and dip strategy. Going to be firing off the Brave Bird, sending in the Vigoroth. Opponent is going to bank some energy and send in Trevenant. So very, very nice to bait out the Trevenant here, as of course, Hitmontop, unless shields are down and can land the Triple Axle, is going to be in a bit of an awkward spot. Vigoroth making it to the Rock Slide, but losing charge attack priority to the Trevenant. Seed Bomb will connect, but now the opponent has a choice. Are they willing to invest shields into this Trevenant? They are going to commit shields to the Trevenant. Vigoroth continuing to farm, and we're going to see the Trevenant again over farming quite a bit, going for the Seed Bomb. Seed Bomb does not get the KO. How precise was the opponent's counting? This is not enough for a Rock Slide, and the opponent's counts are spot on. They know exactly where the energy's at, and they no-shield the body slam. Trevenant only able to make it to a seed bomb there. Lickitung has so much stored energy, and they're going to start using it here. But the energy, of course, isn't going to be doing a whole lot of damage to the Skarmory since it is resisted. They're going for body slam after body slam, looking to switch into the Hitmontop in the back. Oh no, it's Gligar, and we already know what's about to happen to this poor Gligar. Gligar going for the aerial ace, but Shadow Hitmontop, 2 shields to hide behind, going for the triple axle. This is double super effective damage onto the Gligar, nearly getting the one shot, and the opponent concedes the match. All in all, I was surprised by how well Shadow Hitmontop performed in these battles. To be honest, since the fall of MEDICHAM and the rise of Poliwrath, outside of Buzzwole, I don't really feel like I've given other counter users a chance, as the main thing that was holding them back was the fact that the best counter user also beat counter users. So it made it really tough to use something like a Poliwrath, obviously before it got its buff, or something like a Buzzwole, or let's say even a Hitmontop, just due to the fact that, granted, you could beat the stuff that counter users typically beat, but you would always lose to other people's counter user, and now, with MEDICHAM basically gone from the meta, that's no longer the case, whereas a lot more counter users have played, like Buzzwole, of course, has the ability to beat Poliwrath, Hitmontop wins it in the 0s and the 1s, due to the fact that it has the same pacing, and whereas normally, the Poliwrath can just debuff its way through matchups, the Hitmontop can buff right back and get its attack back with the triple axle. So while Poliwrath definitely does remain on top as far as counter users go, to me, based on these battles, it did look like people might be sleeping a little bit on Shadow Hitmontop, because close combat plus a boosting move is a pretty phenomenal moveset. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is sincerely appreciated, so thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.